using Photoshop to isolate yourself from a background and put yourself into a dreamscape. Here you see a picture as one that Mrs. Frank might have taken of you, where you have struck a pose, and we want to get you isolated from the background so that we can put you into a background of your own choosing. To do this, we are going to, first of all, save your picture that you've opened in Photoshop from Mrs. Frank's folder. You're going to save it over to your own folder and save it as your last name Dreamscape Original or something like that, so that you'll know it's the original picture. You would want to work on it in your own folder, not in Mrs. Frank's folder. Once you've done that, you're going to isolate yourself from the background. And one of the easiest tools to use, especially if the background is not a solid background, is to use the magnetic wand tool. It may look like a lasso tool when you first open Photoshop, but if you click and hold on any of the tools, you see other options. So we'll go to the magnetic lasso tool. I am going to either use the magnifying glass, or I can go to the navigator over here to bring the picture up a little bit larger. And then I'm going to click on a point, and the magnetic lasso tool will trace around pixels of the same color. You have to, every once in a while, you have to click to set a point so that the lasso tool doesn't go wild. If it does happen to go wild and leave the area and it seems to go awry, you can always hit the backspace until you get back to the last place where you set a point. It's always good to set points at intersections. Notice it's traveling around his hand here. Kind of tricky around the fingers. You may have to go back in and clean some of it up later with your eraser or with the cloning tool, which I'll show you in another segment. So anyway, I would continue all the way around. Now I'm going to start getting a little bit rough here because I want to, for the sake of time in the tutorial. And I'm going to trace all around my figure until I get back to the origin point. And when I get back to the origin point, I want to hover over the first point I made, and a little circle should show beneath the magnet, and that will tell me I'm at my origin point. And when I click, then it will select my figure. Now, if that doesn't work, you can always double click, hopefully, and it will select your figure. All right, so since my figure is selected and I want my figure and I don't want the background, I'm going to go to select. I'm going to go to inverse. And then when I hit the backspace on the keyboard, the background disappears and all I have left is my figure. And I can go Control D to deselect. And if I have other areas I want to fix, I can use the magnifying glass to come in. For example, right here under his arm, I can go back and get the magnetic lasso tool again and get this area underneath his arm, which is still the wall from the original background. And when that's sparkling, because that is the selection I want to get rid of, I merely need to say backspace, Control D to deselect. I can get the eraser, and I can adjust the size of the eraser by adjusting the size of the paintbrush, and I can come in and fine tune. And eventually what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to save this picture as the last name cut out pick, because you're going to be using this again. So anyway, here is one that I have done right here, and I have the cutout picture. And here's another thing I wanted to show you. Down here, I accidentally, not only would I need the eraser to get rid of some of the extra things that I had picked up, but if I had an area where I had cut into the outfit, I could go to this tool called the Clone Stamp tool. Click on the Clone Stamp tool, adjust my paintbrush down just a little bit, and then I can hold the Alt key down, and you see how it becomes a bullseye? And I can sample the area that I want to fix, let go of the Alt key, and then I can paint in with it. And it actually, I usually do a little tiny sample and then a little tiny paint and then a little sample and then a little paint. And I can fix any areas that got jagged or got cut out. All right, then I would save this, as you can see, as last name, your last name, cutout picture. All right, now over here I also have a guitar that was also isolated in a similar manner. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put John and the guitar together against a background. So now we're going to go to the next step. We now want a new canvas to use these elements in. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to pull down to New. And what we're going to do is change from pixels to inches. If we want it to be landscape, it would be 11 wide by 8 high. I'm sorry, 10 by 8. We don't want to have it be the whole size of the paper. And leave the resolution at 200 per inch. If you wanted it as portrait, then you would have the width as 8 and the height as 10. And we're going to say OK. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a blank canvas like this. And you're going to save it to your own folder. And you're going to say File, Save As. And for this particular one, because we're going to have layers, you're going to save it as a Photoshop document. And you're going to call it your last name, Dreamscape. So I'm going to just say John Dream, SCAPE, complete. All right, and then I'm going to click Save. Now, what you're going to probably want to do is figure out some kind of a background to put in here. And rather than to go and find a background of a stage or something like that, which would take a lot of time for the tutorial, I will let you do that on your own. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically get a different background. I'm going to go to the bucket tool. I'm going to hold down, get the gradient tool, choose a gradient here, just as quick to put John on it. And I'm going to go like this, and I'll get a bit of a gradient. Okay, so now I have my background layer, and I'm going to go and get the picture of John that I cut out. And I'm going to go Control 0, and that's going to fit him on the screen. Now, all I want is John. I do not want any of the white, so I'm going to take that I'm going to take the magic wand tool this time, and I'm going to click into the white background, which has selected all of the white. I'm going to go up to Select again. I'm going to say Inverse, so that now John is selected, and I'm going to say Edit, and I am going to say Copy. All right, then I'm going to switch back into my landscape PSD, and I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Paste. And John will come into the background. And I will come over where it says Layer 1 and click right on the letters and just type John. Now, he is a little bit small for this background, so I'm going to go to making sure I'm in the John layer. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Transform and Scale. And that puts a bounding box on him. I'm going to hold the Shift key down because I want to keep him in proportion. And I am going to just gradually take the diagonal and keep pulling out on the diagonal until such time as I have him the size I want. Now, obviously, you would have him in proportion to whatever you have in the background you've selected. I will hit Enter, which will set the bounding box. And I notice here that I've got a little bit of white by his arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the magic wand tool, making sure I'm in the John layer. And I'm going to click on that white and hit backspace, and now that takes it out and we see him in the back. There's also another little one in the hand here, and in cases like this, you would have to bring it up with the magnifying glass so you could see what you were doing. Back to the magic wand tool, and hopefully it will pick up just that white area, hit backspace, and I'm good. And then I'm going to do Control and Save. If it says Maximize Compatibility, I'm just going to say OK. Control D to deselect. And then I'm going to do Control and 0 to bring it back to fit on my screen. All right, now I want to get the guitar in there. So I'm going to go to the guitar where it's been isolated, do the same technique. With the magic wand tool, I'm going to select the background. I'm going to say select and then inverse so that now the guitar is selected. Edit, copy, and then I'm going to go back into my dreamscape and I'm going to say edit and paste, and it comes into another layer. I'm going to click on the layer and call it guitar. All right, click anywhere to set it. Now, if I get the move tool and I move the guitar here, obviously the guitar is a little bit small. So again, we'll go to image and transform. I'm sorry, edit transform and scale. Hold the shift key down and I'm going to pull the guitar out just until it's probably a little bit more what would be a normal size and move it around a little bit. Maybe just a hair bigger. All right. So once I've done that, I know that I'm going to want to fit this into his arm, so I can go to Edit and back to Transform, and I can say Rotate, and I'll get a little arrow here, and I could actually rotate that guitar so it's going to fit a little bit better, as though he were holding it. And then I'm going to hit Enter to set the bounding box. Now, obviously, we've got problems here because his hand and his arm are behind the guitar. So what we're going to have to do to fix this is we're going to have to go back into the picture of John. I could actually turn the guitar layer off for right now. And I'm going to actually go in and with the magnetic lasso tool, I'm going to just rough cut, well, not rough, I'm going to be as precise as I can, but I'm going, remember, I'm in the John layer. I'm just going around his hand, and I'm going to get his hand selected, and I don't need the whole thing, so I'm going to come back, right, cut across his wrist here. Now, once I have that selected, I'm going to go to Edit and Copy, and then Control D to deselect. I'm going to click back into the guitar layer because I want the hand on top. And when I say Edit and Paste, in comes another layer with the hand, and I'm just going to call it Hand. And then I can get the Move tool, and I can take that hand, I can turn the guitar back on briefly, I can get that hand, and I can kind of line that up exactly where it was, hopefully with the, if I can find the intersection, that's about where it was on his arm. And it doesn't look as smooth as it could, but you'll do a better job than I did. All right, and then I'm going to do a file and save. Now I need to get the arm. So I'm going to go back into John. I'm going to turn off the other two layers, get the magnetic lasso tool. I'm going to, again, select his hand. Whoa, I'm having difficulties here, so I need to set the points more carefully because it's very, his hand really blends in with his shirt here. So I'm going to set the points. If I have to go back, I go back a little bit. And then, again, edit, copy, go back up on top of the hand layer, edit, paste, and then call this arm, however you want to identify it. Then I'm going to turn on the other layers. And in actuality, here I didn't even have to move it because it was pretty much right there. Now, if I'm in the arm layer and I turn off the other layers, I can see I've got a little extra stuff here. I can go into the magnifying glass and I can get my eraser tool And I can come in here and I can just sort of get rid of some of this extra stuff. I can trim it out a little bit. That looks like it's a little bit better. And now I'm going to go to turn the other layers on and Control 0 to bring it back on the screen. And now I've actually put the guitar in his arms and it looks much more real. I could then, of course, get rid of that background and go out and find a background. You'll have already hopefully found a background. I can put other things into the picture by adding layers, but this gives you a little tutorial on how to, um, take parts of the original image so that it makes it more lifelike when you're trying to wrap it around other objects in your finished picture. I hope that you have good luck and good success in this project and have a lot of fun with it.